Hello, movie lovers. Welcome to Does It Hold Up, a box office edition where here on the channel every single week we go over what were the top 10 movies at this past weekend's box office. There is no surprise which one was number one, but we'll find that out in just a second. And then we're going to talk about that director's other movies at the end of the show, so stick around for that. Box office was down a little bit this past weekend. I really don't know what the reason was, other than not a lot of big movies came out, just one. And it's actually the movie that came in first place. Mickey 17 is the number one movie from this past weekend, taking in just over $19 million here domestically. Bong Joon Ho's new movie stars Robert Pattinson, and it's getting really good reviews. 19 seems a little low, or maybe it doesn't. We'll find out later. In second place is Captain America: Brave New World, holding relatively strong in its fourth week, making another $8.3 million, bringing its grand total of $176.5 million. I never saw that total coming. I thought this movie, based on all the chatter prior, was going to be $100 million, maybe. But $76 million over that? Crazy. Third place is Last Breath in its second week with another $4 million. Its total is $14.5. I had a chance to check this movie out over the weekend. It's good, but it could be better. It's the only part of Wonder Woman 1984 that's any good. If you guys ever want to know what I feel about that movie, that's it. That's the one line. That's it. But Last Breath, I thought, was really interesting. It had some great story to it, but it would have worked better as a documentary. I thought Woody Harrelson was really good, but they focused on him a lot instead of the person who was actually in trouble. It was just a mixed bag of what they wanted you to take away in this movie. So to see it hold relatively strong, I'm a little surprised by. I don't think the movie was really all that good, but we'll see if it kind of hangs on or falls off pretty quickly now that more people have had a chance to check it out. In fourth place is The Monkey in its third week with another $3.9 million. It surpassed $31 million, so it's doing all right. Paddington in Peru comes in fifth place in its fourth week with another $3.7 million. It's slowly working its way up, $36.8 million. Come on, guys, go see Paddington. The movies are incredible. In sixth place is Dog Man in its sixth week with another $3.4 million. $88 million total for this movie. It's not going to reach that $100 million, but, pretty impressive for something I don't think a lot of people cared about. In seventh place is Anora in its 21st week of release. It gets that Oscar-winning bump. It made $1.8 million, bringing its grand total to $18.4 million. We've seen this in the past with a lot of other movies. After it wins Best Picture at the Academy Awards, or really picks up any one of the big awards on the night, you'll see it get put back in theaters and people rush to go see it. You're seeing it here with Anora. What Anora really needed was this past weekend, though, because prior to this, it was the lowest grossing Best Picture winner of all time. Just under The Hurt Locker, which made about $17 million. With this $1.8 million, now over $18 million, it's no longer the lowest grossing, unless, of course, you adjust for inflation, in which case then it would definitely be last on the list, but, really needed it. In eighth place is Mufasa the Lion King in its 12th week, still doing all right with another $1.6 million, and it's now officially crossed $250 million here domestically. In ninth place is a new movie called Rule Breakers. It took in $1.5 million, and that's its total here domestically so far. And in 10th place is a movie called In the Lost Lands. It's new to theaters, new to this list. It took in just over $1 million. That movie stars Mila Jovovich and Dave Bautista in like an action movie set in a post-apocalyptic world or something. Where was the marketing for this movie? I'm pretty sure I'm up to date with a lot of the movies that are coming out. I try my best to stay on top of it all. I had no idea what this movie was. I was looking to go see a movie this weekend, and I was scrolling through and I saw it and I was like, what the actual hell? How have I not seen trailers for this? Posters, anything? There is no chatter about this movie. So if you did see it, if you are one of the few people that saw it this past weekend, please let me know in the comments below what you thought about it. Looks kind of interesting. All right, we're going to move on to our next chart here, and that is the weekend-to-weekend comparison, where we take a look back at last year, the same exact weekend, and we compare it to how well the box office did this year. We don't know where we're going if we don't know where we've been. Are we stronger this year than we were last year? I can tell you right now, the answer for this past weekend, is a resounding no. It's the 10th weekend of the year. Last year, Kung Fu Panda 4 hit theaters just a week after Dune Part 2 hit theaters, so it was still holding relatively strong as well. All movies last year in 2024 on the 10th weekend made $136.2 million. This past weekend, with Mickey 17 being the big release, all movies only made about $54.2 million. That is not even close, and a bad sign because 2025 was doing really well up top. You could see those first couple of weeks. 2025 was always above 2024, but the last 2 weekends really have made a massive difference. Overall, through the first 10 weeks, 2025 has made more money than 2024, so that's a good sign. And there are still a lot of big movies to come. Obviously, we haven't hit the summer movie time, but there's actually some big movies coming out in April as well, so I'm hoping that the box office is going to bounce back sooner rather than later. All right, and speaking of 2025, let's go ahead and look at the top 10 movies of the year so far. This is all movies that have made any money here in 2025. So basically, if you made money from January 1st until now, you can be included on this chart as long as you're one of the top 10. Couple changes this past weekend. Captain America 4 is still in first place with $176.5 million. Mufasa the Lion King is still in second place with $122.3 million made in just 2025, even though it's a 2024 release. But we get our first change here. Dogman jumps up to third place with $88.6 million, knocking Sonic the Hedgehog 3 down to fourth place with $84.2 million. Moana 2 stays in fifth with just under $56 million. In sixth place, moving up one spot, is One of Them Days with $48.5 million. It pushes Nosferatu down to seventh place with $47.5 million. A Complete Unknown in eighth place with $46 million. Wicked in ninth with $40 million. And Paddington in Peru jumps into that 10th spot with $36.8 million, knocking out Den of Thieves 2 Pantera. Paddington in Peru will most likely pass up Wicked this weekend if it hasn't already throughout the week, so I expect it to move up a little bit on the chart. Can Mickey 17 jump onto this chart after its second weekend? Well, we'll find out next week. And speaking of Mickey 17, it was directed by Bong Joon Ho, Oscar-winning director. So I wanted to take a look at his filmography, and I wanted to focus mostly on his domestic releases because he's a very big director in his home country in that area. But what about domestically, where he's now kind of entered into the Hollywood system? He's looked at as a very prolific director who makes really good movies. So let's go through his history real quick and see if there's anything we can notice as we go through. First movie that he ever had released here domestically was back all the way in 2003 called Memoirs of Murder. Its opening weekend was about $4,500 only because it opened in just one theater. It went on to have a domestic total of only $14,000. If you adjust that for inflation, its domestic total would be about $25,000. Worldwide, it made about $1.2 million. You can see a little asterisk there. That's because worldwide numbers for 2003 are very hard to come by. Its highest theater count, it only ever played in one theater here domestically. Then in 2007, he released a movie called The Host. Its opening weekend was about $315,000, so a nice big jump up, but that's because it opened in 71 theaters, not just one. It would go on to make a domestic total of $2.2 million. Adjusted for inflation, that's $3.6 million. Worldwide, though, this one did really well, coming in at $92.6 million. You can see that he was a bigger star elsewhere in the world, besides North America, because that $93 million that he made on this movie, only $2 million of that came from domestic theaters. The most theaters the Host played in at any given time was 116. So that's not close to a wide release here in North America. Wide releases, there's no exact number on when a movie goes wide, but a lot of people think about 1,000 theaters. If you're somewhere around 1,000 theaters, that means you're a wide release. You're across the entire country, you're across the entire continent, so you're going to be making more money. If he's only hitting 116 theaters, well, not a lot of people are going to see this one. Did a lot of people see his next one? Well, no. Mother was his next domestic release in 2010. Its opening weekend was about $36,000. It opened in 6 theaters. So you can see that he has very good openings per theater. People are actually going to check it out. Unfortunately, a lot of studios didn't want to play his movies. Domestic total, 551,500. Adjusted for inflation, it comes out to about $790,000. Worldwide, it made $17.7 million, a big dip from the host, but still, he's much more successful overseas than he is here. Highest theater count for this movie was 38. Here's where it starts getting interesting. Snowpiercer, 2014. Opening weekend, 171,000, opening up in 8 theaters. It would go on to make a domestic total of $4.5 million. If we adjust that for inflation, it's about $6.3 million. This is a movie that I don't know anybody who doesn't like this movie. Maybe you don't love this movie, but everybody can admit this is a really good movie at the least, if not a fantastic movie. But I don't think a lot of people even knew who Bong Joon Ho was when this movie released. Yes, Chris Evans was in it. Yes, he was coming off of like Captain America, playing that character, so he was becoming a big star, but there wasn't a lot of promotion for this movie, and it shows because this movie went on to gross a ton of money in home video rentals and home video purchases, just not in theaters. Its worldwide total is $86.7 million. Highest theater count here domestically was 356, so he's starting to get played in more theaters, but the money's still not really rolling in yet. That is until 2019 when he releases Parasite, a movie that would go on to nab him a Best Screenplay Oscar, a Best Directing Oscar, and a Best Picture Oscar. Its opening weekend, only $393,000, but as you can see, that's because it only opened in 3 theaters. That is an average of $131,000 per theater that it was playing at in that weekend. If they would have gave it a wide release, imagine how much money it could have brought in. Domestic total would eventually go on to be about $54 million. Adjusted for inflation, it's $66 million. Worldwide, though, this movie was a phenomenon, $262.6 million. The North American gross is a higher percentage of this movie compared to a lot of his previous movies, and that's because the highest theater count for this was over 2,000. 2,001 theaters played Parasite, and it really paid off. And then this past weekend, he released Mickey 17. Its opening weekend, as you just found out earlier in this show, just over 19 million. Opening theaters, it released in 3,807 theaters domestically. And it kind of paid off. $19 million made. His highest opening weekend of all time, pretty easily. Domestic total, we know it's that 19 million right now. The little asterisk is because it's not done grossing. Adjusted for inflation, same amount. Worldwide, 53.3 million. Again, an asterisk because we don't know how high that number's actually going to go. But it's one of, if not his highest worldwide total so far in just 6 movies, because that's what happens when you win an Oscar. When you win an Oscar, people all of a sudden start paying attention. There's a lot of people out there who say, ooh, the Oscars, does anybody watch them anymore? Does anybody even care anymore? Yes. Proof. The answer is yes. This is the first movie. He released one other movie, I believe, called Okja a couple of years ago, in between Parasite and this. Maybe that was before Parasite, though. I might be wrong. Correct me in the comments if I am. But that was more of a straight-to-streaming. It didn't release in theaters here domestically, so there is no way to know the numbers for that one. But this is the first movie he's released since winning Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Screenplay at the Academy Awards. So all the people saying those awards don't matter anymore, that no award shows matter anymore, they really do. This is his highest opening weekend of all time. This is probably going to go on to be his highest grossing domestic movie of all time. Will it go on to pass up Parasite, $263 million worldwide? I don't know about that. I haven't seen Mickey 17 yet, but I've heard good things. So there's a possibility, but it goes to show that yes, it is important to get recognized by your peers. People do pay attention. It does make a difference. So how high can Mickey 17 go? We'll be covering it here week to week on the channel. So like, share, subscribe so you never miss a video from us and you can stay up to date on all of this. Until I see you again, just remember to be good to yourself, kind to others, and keep watching movies.